All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin NFC North Podcast, episode 45, Vikings sink, Packers streaking, and epic Detroit Green Bay playoff showdown, plus Week 18 preview. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the Damar Hamlin situation. Obviously, prayers go out to him, his family, his recovery, and then also Shelby, you brought up T. Higgins, which he's kind of getting lost in this as well. I mean, that has to, weigh on him heavily being part of the play and all the players.
Yeah, just for everyone's mental health and his health.
Yeah, we joke about our teams and we follow our teams, but it is important to remember that these players, they're people, and this doesn't happen in a vacuum. And so it's going to be an interesting week 18 as we kind of, watch the players, kind of get on the field and get back to the what their jobs are. And so that's going to be definitely heavy on everybody. And one thing that's definitely heavy on this division and the rest of us in the division, I'm hoping the Packers fail, is an epic showdown for the playoffs. We'll get there. We'll just kind of start with Packers sinking the Vikings, and I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, Shelby. What are you thinking about this team and that game? I mean, does it mean anything?
I mean, obviously it means something. Like, it's against the Packers. I think all Vikings fans, Bears fans, Lions fans, we care more about the Packers losing than we care, just because we're so used to losing, I feel like, the rest of us. And I think all we've heard from Packers fans on like Twitter is like, we're frauds. It didn't matter that we won the first game against them because they were always going to think that we were frauds. And I think that mattered more to me. Obviously taking them out of the playoffs would have been sweet victory, but it was just frustrating. Like, our major losses are because of like the craziest turnovers and like another blocked kick. Like, all of a sudden Greg Joseph can't make any fucking kicks. Like, it's just freak accident after freak accident. And am I surprised? No. Do I wish we would have not lost by as much as we did? Yes. But like, it kind of is what it is at this point. Vikings, Packers, you just never know.
So, Pack Daddy, then, are you on the Jair Island now? Do you feel like he's a shutdown corner since what he did to Jefferson?
Well, it's hard to say that. That was kind of his first game this year that he's and as I'm sure Shelby would happily point out, he wasn't on him all day, every day, every play, which nobody is. But anyways, I mean, I'm happy to see that version of Jair back. He was injured last year, the year prior to that. He really was that guy. And he's been begging for it, and then he gets beat by a guy like, Equanimous, and it's like, all right, you can't be begging for it and then get cooked by guys like that. So he calls out Justin Jefferson, and even Packer fans are thinking like, dude, come on, man, you can't be doing that. So I think it was a shock to everyone. I'm guessing Jair's probably a little surprised by how well that went, but it happened. And to be completely honest, the defense has been playing really well.
Yeah, I was going to wonder, like, is this on the defense then, Shelby, or is this maybe on Kirk as well?
I think the defense ate us the fuck up. Like, because it wasn't just Kirk. Obviously, Jefferson didn't perform. We couldn't get a run. The fact that Kirk was running more than anything is like, just goes to show you. And then obviously the Bradbury injury and having to put in someone random as a center. Like, there just was so many factors. And I think that we just got completely shut down. Like, would I put it all on Kirk? No. But I think that some of the interceptions were like, it's frustrating with his interceptions because some of them, it's like not really his fault. Like, it's a picked ball, tipped ball that ends up being picked. And then some of them are like right to him, but it's technically because his wide receiver ran the wrong route. And it's just, there's no continuity in our
Shelby,
game.
I have a question.
Yes.
Shelby, so I watched the whole game. I had a lot riding on the game. And what was it? 5 targets to Jefferson, I think it was. And I'm not taking away from anything that Alexander did. He did a good job and shutting down Jefferson. But I felt from watching the game that Cousins was more kind of just considered him shut down for the game. When I feel like if you have a wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, you feed him, especially when you're down the way they were down. I felt like it was more Cousins being afraid to try at the Jefferson than Jefferson being completely shut down. I mean, that's not taking away from what Alexander did. He played a great game, but don't you feel like Cousins definitely should have been trying to feed Jefferson more, especially when they're down by 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think that another thing is it wasn't just Alexander. Like he was triple. It was literally Alexander, and then the safeties were right behind him. And I think that it is the end of the season. It was a big game. Most of Kirk Cousins' interceptions throughout the year have him just being ballsy and like throwing that bitch up and just hoping that someone's going to get there. And I also think that it played a part in Jefferson was getting really frustrated as well too. And I don't know what was going, because oh my gosh, all Packers on Twitter were showing Jefferson like accidentally hitting the ref with his helmet, which is crazy. But I think there was just a lot of frustration, and I've said it all year that when Jefferson does get shut down, he really kind of goes into himself, and then the whole game is kind of downhill from there. So I don't know. There's just something weird about when he does get locked down, he gets locked down. But yeah, do I think Kirk could have been more ballsy? Yes, but I think there was so many turnovers in that game that he felt like he had to play more safe. But there was just so many. There's nothing really positive I can say.
It was a rough game.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, obviously, positive on the Packers side. I mean, is this the real Packer defense then, Pac Daddy? Or what are we to make of this defense? Or was it just
this is above and beyond, I mean, this was exceptional for a lot of reasons, but they have
all that snow.
Yeah, I think we frozen in the tundra.
No.
Dang it, am I back again?
Yep,
Every time I talk,
you're back.
freeze.
There you go.
All right, so everybody's saying, oh, you beat the Bears, you beat the Rams, nobody cares, but then they keep doing it. And then Miami, oh, you can't again?
He's like the Packers season. He's going back and forth here.
This is a conspiracy.
Yep. We planned this.
I did.
Are we good?
We're good. We're good.
All right, I'll try this one more time. Miami, right? You're not going to be able to stop them. They're too powerful, and they did. Okay, well, that didn't count because he got a concussion in the fourth quarter. Okay, fine, he got a concussion. Well, Minnesota, just as high-powered. I even said they're as scary, if not more scary. Look what happened. So at some point, you got to acknowledge what it is. And again, you look at some advanced metrics like DVOA and whatnot. They've got the defense, top 5 defense right now in the second half of the season. So it is surprising, or since I think they're number 1 since they came out of their bye. But it is surprising. But they've made some changes. They made some schematic adjustments, and for whatever reason, they're playing better. I mean, they played like they had no heart, like they didn't care. And for some reason, now that the season's almost done, they're like, hey, you know what? I got an idea. Let's play with passion and fire, and let's pretend we're good at football. And they're doing it. I don't know why it took them so long, but it's hard to say with such a small sample size that this is going to be the defense going forward. But it's certainly encouraging because they've been doing it since they've come out of their bye week.
Well, do you think, just a question, do you think that this whole, because it seems to be, we were more thinking that Rodgers didn't have the passion in the beginning, and now it seems that the defense is winning these games, which is a lot different for you. Do you think that too? Because Rodgers hasn't even went over 100 passer rating all year, and
yeah, he's not doing it. I mean, this isn't a Rodgers thing. I mean, this is defense, run game, all that stuff. But the defense was checked out. I mean, they were kind of bad to start the season, and then around week 5, 6, they just fell off. Kenny Clark, the first 5 weeks was the best defensive tackle. Since then, he's been the worst. And Jair fell off, and everybody else, it's they didn't care. So that's the weird thing is they come out of their bye, and you see it. You see the passion. Jair's trash talking and all this, and it's it's just kind of like, where did this come from? Because this is what we thought they were going to be when the season started. Like, this is going to be a great defense, and then they just weren't. And for whatever reason, they're doing it. And it's such a small window. It's hard to say, like, this is them for sure. Could be a fluke, but it's encouraging. And we got one more week to see what they can do against another really good offense. And if they can do it again, then I feel good about their chances.
How much of it is on the defensive coordinator, good and bad?
Well, I mean, like I said, there's, and I haven't looked into it a ton, but a lot of people are saying they've made a lot of schematic changes. So you gotta, I mean, he was out the door. He was done. Like, it was, he's got to go. There's way too much talent. And all of a sudden he made some changes and they're playing like this. I think in just a matter of a couple of games, he probably saved his job at least for one more year, unless they completely play like garbage against the Lions. But I think you have to give him credit. I mean, look at what they're doing. It's like Shelby said too, it wasn't Jair necessarily, it was the defense as a whole. They found, whether it was Jair, 2 guys, 3 guys, but then on top of that, you got 3 guys on him. Why couldn't anybody else get open? So you got a whole bunch of people playing really well and doing, and the run. People are still saying, well, you can run on them. I hope the Lions run. Not really. Nobody's been able to run against the Packers for a while. So it's a lot of things that they've changed, and the defense as a whole is just playing really good football right now.
Well, speaking of a team that seems to be starting to play good as well, and I don't know if it was against the Bears, just kind of get right game, but the Lions dominated the Bears 41-10. I, as a Bears fan, I saw enough from Justin Fields again that enough that I liked, but obviously the Lions just had too much talent overall. What did you see, Fantasy Dad?
First of all, I agree with you on Fields. He looks great. He's going to get himself killed if he keeps running that much, I think. But then again, he doesn't have any options to throw to. Once Mooney went down, he's been kind of at a loss. But I kind of wish he would use Kmet more for that game. But as far as the Lions go, I mean, James Houston has been just money for them since he's come back. He has been so exciting to watch play, and him and Hutchinson are just giving me. I mean, I understand they went from the worst defense in the league to just 25, 24, whatever they're at right now. But it's been on the line, defensive line has been massive improvement. And you can just see the way they were sacking Fields. I mean, they're ruthless on the quarterback right now. I mean, I wish sometimes the secondary would play as tough as that. They're going to need to do it this Sunday. But I just really, you're seeing little things from Jamison Williams. Just they're using him very little, but when they use him, it's standing out huge. I feel like they're going to really have to start working him in if they're going to go to the playoffs and even make it past this Sunday. But honestly, I'm watching that game, and Houston is just becoming my favorite player to watch. He is just a beast right now on the line,
Well, Pack Daddy, I know you maybe have some words about Justin Fields, his interceptions. What did you see from that game?
Well, I'll say this: considering the circumstances, I'm trying to be nicer towards players and everything else, and not use some certain phrases that maybe I've used in the past. But anyways, look, nothing in my opinion has really changed. I think he is one of the best rushing quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. He has the potential. I'm actually, part of me is upset that they're not playing him. What does he need, 30 yards to break the record?
I think it was like 63. It was, yeah.
Well, whatever. He'll get it in a play. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really. I guess he has an injury or something. But
hip injury. Yep.
So yeah, he's a scary guy with the ball in his hand. But I will never be scared of a guy that's a runner that is not a good thrower. And I just don't think he is. Maybe he will be. In which case he'll be the scariest quarterback of all time. But right now he is a guy that can run really well. But if you force him to pass, then you're going to win the game. So,
and that's fair enough. I definitely will take that, and that's why I asked about it. But there was several plays where the guard and the line were just getting blown up back into Fields, and you can't pass. You don't even have a pocket there, so that's going to be definitely something they're going to need to address if they want to continue to develop him. He's got a lot of kind of room to grow in that passing area, but and I know you talked about being disappointed that he is not going to play, but I am not at all. Obviously, it would have been, kind of cool to have that record. But as as franchises, we especially as a Bears fan, I want a quarterback long term, and whether or not we don't know how injured he is. Obviously, they say he's injured. I mean, they could basically kind of make that up just to say, well, we're going to sit him. I've seen enough leadership wise, even in this game. On the sideline, Chase Claypool kind of doing Chase Claypool things, getting emotional. And I don't know if you saw that, like he basically told, Chase Claypool to chill out, it doesn't help anybody to blow up on anybody else. And so you see that leadership and that's kind of one thing. You have that leadership, but when you also have talent to back it up, I think that's another thing. And as a Bears fan, we haven't seen that. So, I mean, everything I wanted to see, I saw. And then, also I did want to see the Lions win because, as a Bears fan, it's weird, but you do kind of, root for a higher draft pick. I mean, it just is what it is.
Go Lions.
We're all Lions fans.
Well, not all of us, but not the guy at the bottom there. He's frozen again.
Another opportunity for the Packers to break everybody's heart. That's all. It's fine.
Either way, and we'll get to that in a second. And I just and before we kind of get to that, obviously, I'm also a Houston Texans fan this week, and they're facing the Colts, and it's crazy. I think they said it's like the Colts or the Texans have like a 73% chance of winning, whatever that means. Colts have just been it's a
so
mess
bad right now.
And Nick Foles is hurt. I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback. So what would your take be if the Bears were to get the number 1 overall pick? I'm going to go ahead and start with you as a Packers fan, Pack Daddy. What if the Bears would get a number 1 draft pick? What would you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's not what I want to happen, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think whether you get a number 1, 2, or 3, you're probably going to get the same guy would be my guess. So I'm not, I wouldn't be, especially because you're fighting for either 1 or 2. You're going to get the same guy either way. I think. I think that first spot is probably going to go to a quarterback, which you don't want anyways if you do get the number 2 pick. As far as not being super worried about it, one of the things you've been talking about is, well, the reason things are so bad is because look at all the needs. He doesn't have any wide receivers. He doesn't have any. One guy isn't going to fix all that. You're going to go get a defensive tackle or probably a pass rusher if you go number 2. I doubt you're going to take the defensive tackle. So, I mean, you got a pass rusher. Well, you had Khalil Mack a long time ago, and it still didn't really do you a lot of good. So you still need offensive line. You still need probably another pass rusher. You still need defensive line. You still need, maybe a linebacker. I know you like the guys you got. You need a bunch of offensive linemen. You need a bunch of wide receivers. So, I mean, congrats on getting a pass rusher, but I don't know if 2023 Super Bowl is necessarily around the corner here.
No, and I'm okay with that. But for me as a Bears fan, the significance of getting the number 1 overall pick would be, my hope would be that they would – exactly. Yeah, that would be the most the best possible scenario. Get more picks because, yes, we definitely need a ton of talent and top-end talent, not just kind of – filler positions. And the way the roster is constructed now, I mean, it was not supposed to win right away. And, it is what it is. Well, speaking of kind of is what it is, we have let's go ahead and start, Shelby, with the Vikings and Bears game. All right. As we kind of start with this game, we know Fields is not going to play. So that's going to be, we'll see what Nathan Peterman could do. Getting the Vikings back on track, I think, is probably important. Where are you kind of, thinking as far as the importance of this game and just kind of getting a win and maybe, solidifying a better seeding in the playoffs?
I mean, I definitely think we need a win. I know we had talked about this before, that I was kind of worried about the Bears game because we never win this game. And a lot of times we don't start people. But I honestly think that for the first half, we actually need to start our starters in some way because at this point, we cannot go into the playoffs off of that Packers loss. We just can't do it. And the Bears, I'm not necessarily worried about you guys, but I definitely think that we just need to get our momentum back. We need to get more solid. I also wouldn't mind Jefferson playing for a little bit just so he gets more yards and Hill can't catch up to him. And I think that it would be a good game to kind of get like their confidence back. But yeah, I definitely have always, I don't know if you remember like our first show, but I predicted 12-5.
Mm-hmm.
So this one could be a loss. I don't want them to not start our starters for the whole game though. I just don't think that we should do that.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely kind of need to get some type of good mojo going. But even like you think, I was going to ask too, like, have you noticed a difference between the Vikings, playing indoors as opposed to outdoors? Because obviously, last week was just a complete flop outdoors at Lambeau. Is there a difference kind of on turf indoors as opposed to outdoors? And obviously, being at Soldier Field, we don't know I have to look at what the weather's going to be, but it's going to be outdoors in the cold. Is there being a difference between the team? I mean, I guess
we played in Buffalo.
That's true. They did. Yeah.
We did win in Buffalo. And then we also won in that like 95-degree weather in Miami. It's interesting why everyone was making such a big deal. Obviously, Lambeau's field is trash. Like, no offense, that's not even a Packers thing. It's just a very old stadium. Like, it needs to be updated. But at the same time, like, we're from Minnesota. Like, come on. You can't, like, they practice outside too. It's not like we're just inside and not used to cold. So that's frustrating. But I said for the past couple of weeks, I worry about Soldier Field.
It's trash too, by the way. The field.
Well, yeah. And I honestly think it's just Lambeau and Soldier Field that I think we have some sort of. But then again, we won at Lambeau 2 years ago. So I don't know. I just think that it'll depend on who we start. And the Bears also don't really want to win either at this point. Right?
Yeah, I mean, in the radio, they're saying all the right things. Eberflus is saying all the right things. We're trying to get ready to win. But first and second year players, there's still a positive vibe around the locker room, which means, wins and losses at this point don't mean as much as in previous years and future years, and that's fine. And Fantasy Dad, when you kind of look at this game, are you kind of what do you see between the Vikings? You see them kind of needing this win as well?
I think on a normal basis, I would say they wouldn't play the starters, but I think after last week, it's probably going to help to get them out there a bit and kind of. They got beaten up pretty bad last week. Confident. You don't want to go into playoffs, with that kind of confidence down like that. I think they'll probably give the first half to their starters. I think they'll pull off the win. I don't necessarily think the Bears are going to try to lose because, as was already said, first, second, third pick, they don't need a quarterback. They're not going to be drafting a quarterback. I think they're going to get what they need with the top 3 pick. So I don't think they're necessarily going out there trying to lose. It's a divisional game. I see the Bears. I think the Bears will try to win it. And I think it would be smart to give the Vikings starters some playing time after last week because that was pretty defeating, that loss last week at Lambeau.
Embarrassing.
It was tough. Yeah. I'm a Lions fan. I've been dealt with embarrassing before, so I'm not gonna.
I was at the Chargers game watching the game on my phone, like streaming it, and I was like, "Yeah, fuck that." I was like, "Let me focus on the team that's winning."
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty mad too. I'm like, I'm turning this off. I don't want to watch it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
But speaking of game, we'll go ahead and go to the marquee game of the weekend, and it could go, a couple different ways. It's interesting they flex it to the Sunday night game, and we'll see what happens.
I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, and
Seattle has to win though, correct? Seattle has to lose for it to be as big of a game, right? Sorry,
right.
Strike that.
Seattle has to lose. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so Packers win, they're in regardless, but Lions are only win in if Seattle loses, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm only worried about the Packers not getting in. So.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit, Pack Daddy. We talked about having confidence. So you have a lot of confidence in.
And I get a bad connection here.
Oh, you got a bad connection?
I got you back there. Okay, sorry.
Pack Daddy, are you there?
Yeah, no, it's not my connection this bad.
So are you?
That was mine.
You're pretty confident about this game then overall?
Well, I mean, every game is kind of a coin flip. I'm always going to be nervous about a game, but just as far as you can break it down and kind of look at what I think is going to happen from what I've seen, I am confident. And it's not really a knock against the Lions necessarily. I think in a neutral field or in Detroit, I'd be a lot more scared. But, Lambeau Field, first of all, in December, the Packers do not lose. Sunday night, the Packers are absolute monsters. I was actually disappointed with what they did with the Bears scoring 27. That was one of the lowest scoring games they've had on a Sunday night in Lambeau Field. And then the Lions are like, when you look at the difference between home and away, there's no bigger difference in any team other than the Lions. It's really pretty staggering how different it is. So just all the different factors mixed in, even the matchup, when you look at, the kinds of teams that could hurt the Packers, I don't think it's the Lions. I know they have a scary offense, but as we've seen the last 2 weeks, that's not the kind of team that I'm worried about. I'm worried about teams like the 49ers who are going to have that stifling defense. Even though we don't really have a great offense, it's still not the high-powered offenses that I think I'm super worried about at this point. So everything that I look at kind of is in line with the Packers are going to win this game. Now, if the Lions win 42-7, is that going to be a massive shocker? Not really. But, again, as best as I can break it down, I think this should be a Packers win.
What do you think, Fancy Dad?
I mean, it's a tough team when you're going against the Green Bay referees. I mean the Green Bay Packers, sorry. I promised myself I was to say that joke, sorry. But it's a Sunday night. I feel like in Lambeau, the Packers are going to get a lot of calls their way. I think, it's just, I'm sorry. They're definitely going to. Rodgers is going to get his calls.
Let me tell you what you can do. You can grab and pull and tackle Christian Watson all night, and you won't get any flags because that's been happening for about 4 or 5 weeks now. He's been getting grabbed every single time. Oh, by the way, take your helmet off and smash a referee, and they won't even throw a flag.
Here we go. I was waiting for it.
Well,
it.
If we get all the calls, somebody explain that one to me.
He barely hit him.
He barely drove his helmet into the back of his.
I'm just here to instigate.
I hate.
But no, I think it could. I mean, obviously, I'm praying to God Seattle loses because that makes the game for me. I mean,
who is Seattle playing?
If they're playing the Rams, right?
Yeah.
And I just that changes everything,
Yeah.
I mean, so they flexed the game to Sunday night because they expect it to be a huge game, but it might not be. I think the Lions will play hard either way, but obviously you're playing way harder if you're trying to make a playoff spot. And I think go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, like on that Rams Seahawks game, Bobby Wagner has extra kind of motivation against the Seahawks. Like it sounded pretty pissed about kind of how that thing ended, and he's gonna want to beat the Seahawks. Baker Mayfield has been
awesome.
He's been an enigma though.
Crazy.
He's been awesome. He's been bad.
Yeah.
They definitely have an opportunity and to win there. I can see that definitely happening. Regardless, I think Dan Campbell's going to have his team ready to go. But my question is though, I mean, when you talk about, players that have been there before, Aaron Rodgers has been there before, and as much as I hate to kind of say good things about Aaron Rodgers, he's able to kind of, the players that have been there before, they're able to kind of be calm in those moments. And that's what I would worry about, like Dan Campbell being calm in the moment, if it, like, regardless of how big this game is, if Seattle loses, I mean, this will be a huge game. Is Dan Campbell up for the moment?
I'm nervous. I mean, you see him on Thanksgiving against Buffalo. I mean, that was bad coaching at the end of the game. I mean, when they blew that game on Thanksgiving, and I'm nervous about Goff. I mean, Goff's away stats compared to at home stats, and just being a Lions fan as it is, I'm going into it pessimistic. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, but I mean, this has been such a surprising season. I mean, I can't help but have the worst thing you can have as a Lions fan, which is hope, but I'm nervous about it because, as we said, the Green Bay defense has turned it on big time coming out of the bye. But there's been improvements from the Lions D, and if that if you can get Hutchinson and Houston rattling Rodgers a little bit, which is no easy task, then I can see the Lions pulling one out.
What about Pack Daddy? What about Jameson Williams kind of accounting for him? I mean, are you worried about him kind of being an X factor maybe in a Lions win here?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually funny listening to him describe how they're using him, because that's exactly what Christian Watson was. I mean, when you go back and watch it, you can see what he can do, but the team is constantly just doing this dink and dunk nonsense. Like it's the whole, we got to get the ball in his hands nonsense. Like, would you stop and just use him and when they finally did, look at what happened. And I know the stats are down, but I just went back and watched, and he was open almost every single play. So yeah, I'm guessing when they figure out how to use him, he's going to be a scary guy. And unfortunately for Dallas, we figured it out that week and they got punished. If they figure it out this week, which what better week to unleash him, that could potentially kind of suck a little bit, especially if you're studying how to beat Detroit and you're not really anticipating him being the major X factor, and he comes out of there as a major part of their game plan. So, I mean, it's hard to imagine, especially in such a high pressure game like this, that they're going to put a lot on him. I don't think they're going to do that, but who knows? Maybe they're going to go little high risk, high reward and put a lot on him and see how that goes. We'll see.
What about then? They get him going, but then even like Jamal Williams has just been crazy good this year. I mean, are you worried then about stopping him?
Well, again, it's just what is this defense really? I mean, if this is kind of not actually the Packers defense and they've just been kind of lucky or whatever, then yeah, I mean, stopping the run has been a problem. It feels like my entire life since Reggie White was here. But if this is the new Packers defense and they actually are doing these things, then I don't know that I'm super worried. I mean, either way, I mean, the duo of Swift and Williams, the way they complement each other is always going to be a little bit scary. But I mean, they're a really scary football team. And it's the same as the Vikings, the same as Miami. Like, if you bring your A game, we got a shot. If you don't, this is going to suck. So that's really all there is to it.
Yep.
Shelby, like, what about the Packers? Like, I know from my perspective, but what about the Packers? It just kind of angers you most about kind of like
therapy session here.
This situation. Like, we all wrote them off, and now it's just kind of they're in position, they control their own destiny. It's just like, is this going to happen again?
I'm not surprised. Like, I wouldn't say them coming back is like, oh my gosh, because it is the Packers at the end of the day. They do have Rodgers. If we're talking about what annoys me the most, it's the fucking fans. Like, no offense, but y'all are so annoying. Oh my gosh. Like, there was a guy yeah, and some of them I like I you, Pack Daddy, but thanks. Some of them on Twitter, there was thanks. There was a guy today, and he like, oh my gosh, what he's been on is like Go Pack something, I don't know, but he was like, yeah, Rodgers has a lot of interceptions, but technically he only has 6 according to this random stat.
That was literally me.
Okay, yeah.
You said you would talk to me about it on the show.
Okay, well, here we are talking about it.
Wow.
Here we are talking about it. I was like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, this is the most... I'm so glad it was you, because when you came on, I was like, wait, is this the same person? I'm just, like, reading it. And this happens all the time. Like, even Fields fans, they'll, like, cherry pick the most specific stat to, like, fit the narrative. And Rodgers, like, this year has been your guys' defense. 100%. Mm-hmm. Am I surprised that you guys are going to maybe make it to the playoffs? No. I was more thinking that it was hilarious that it's even come down to you have to beat the Lions to get in. Like, that's funny to me. But what upsets me most is, like, yeah, we played like shit last week. But it's that one fucking guy I keep getting into that was on. What is his fucking name? I hate that motherfucker. The guy that was.
Is it me again?
No, not you.
Is it
no,
JJ?
Not you.
Is it JJ?
That'd be great if it was.
No, it's not you. It's that guy that was like, I don't know what his name is, but we get into it.
It wasn't the skeleton guy, was it?
It might be JJ, honestly.
Yeah.
But we get into it all the time. And he's like, I'm like, either way, you're acting like we're not 50-50. Like, we won the first game, y'all won the second game. We made y'all look silly, now you made us look silly. Like, to sit here and look at your 8-8 season and be like, yeah, we're the best in the NFC North. Like, that's just very delusional to me. The Lions actually scare me. I think that the Lions are really good. Your offense, and again, if we're talking about how crazy the Packers defense is, their offensive line is incredible. And if Goff does have the time, I think that they can continue to put up scores, and it's really going to be whoever can put up more scores. But yeah, I would just say delusional fans is what's really getting under my skin.
Can I address the stat in question?
Yes, please. And did you come with the stat that I asked you for?
What? You didn't ask me for anything.
I responded and I was like, can you find that exact same stat with Kirk's interceptions? Because I'm genuinely curious.
I can. You didn't ask. I think you're talking to two different people. You didn't ask me anything, I don't think.
Someone responded, and I might have responded to that person's.
So, anyways, it's going to take a while. It's you know what adjusted completion percentage is? It's.
I can assume.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's your completion percentage, but we're not counting the drops because that's not fair to the quarterback, right? And some other stuff.
Okay.
This is the same thing. It's if you throw a pick and the defender drops it, you still suck. So how many times did you throw a pick, whether or not that guy dropped it, right?
Okay.
So they have a thing called turnover-worthy plays. You threw a ball that should have been intercepted. Rodgers has thrown 15 of those, but he has 11 interceptions. 15 is not, so it's a really high percentage of the time he throws those interceptable passes as compared to the rest of the league. And all
which is completely different than this year, right?
So the 6 is, so what I did is I went and found a league average of how many times for turnover-worthy plays does it get caught, and it's like 40% or something. And if you apply that to Rodgers, it goes down to 6. So Rodgers just has a really high percentage of his turnover-worthy plays that are actually intercepted. So in my opinion, maybe you disagree, the turnover-worthy plays are more important. How many times did you throw a pass to a defender?
Okay. Can you look it up for Kirk? I'm just like actually not even in the sense of like, oh, Kirk is better. I'm just genuinely curious because I feel like his interceptions this year have been so like similar.
So my question on that would be, what if like a wide receiver runs a wrong route? Because that that happened several times with Fields this year. Darnell Mooney had admitted that he was in the wrong playbook. He was in the playbook from last year, so he was running the wrong routes. And so that could happen. I mean, is that accounted for at all?
I'm not sure, but Kirk Cousins is 23 times, and the percentage is 3.2%, and Rodgers is 2.5%. So that's the thing. If you look at the percentage of his throws that are interceptable, even though Rodgers is really high, he actually ranks 30th in interceptable percentage of his passes that are interceptable. So it's actually quite low. So all I'm saying, and listen, I know the whole thing with that upset, even more than you, somebody else was really getting mad at me about that stat, saying you're just trying to defend Rodgers. I'm telling you, Rodgers isn't having a good year.
Right.
I swear. And this is, everybody always wants to go to my motive. I just happened to come across this. I found it interesting and I put it on Twitter. That's all it was.
But you are different. Like that stat was more annoying, but like you and Rev Trev, very realistic. Like you're not out here like fighting people in the comments and being like so delusional. But there really is some people that
I get it. Like
he'll come to my page specifically just to talk shit, and I'm like, bro.
Did you guys hear the Packers watered down the field prior to the game to try to?
That didn't actually happen, though, right?
No, that was the big thing.
Rumor.
Yeah,
because it was soggy in the middle or something.
Right? No, that did not happen. I'm just saying.
To be honest, I avoided Twitter this week because I genuinely just needed like a little cleanse.
Justin Jefferson did too. He deactivated his account right after the game.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
See, I like hearing these stats, and I think this is important. I definitely appreciate, Packer fans or Viking fans or Lions, any other football fans that actually have like stats and stuff, because that's stuff that helps you learn and makes you think. Like there's this guy on a Facebook group, Eric Hawtrey is his name. I'm calling him out right here. But he's one of those fans. Like he, who is the Packer returner?
Keyshawn Nixon.
Keyshawn Nixon ran that one back. And it's right as soon as that happened on Facebook, he said, Keyshawn Nixon is greater than Devin Hester. It's one of those, right? Anytime,
Right.
And it's just like one of those type of fans. And whether it's, any type of fan, if you're going to do that, I mean, you're just kind of begging for, interaction and we all do that at times, but I think it's important to have these discussions and actually talk about stats and trends and all these things that actually happen, not just kind of comments to get other fans' blood boiling.
And also
that makes sense to me.
Just to be even clearer, I was doing research for the podcast because somebody had mentioned Goff is a better quarterback than Rodgers. And that's where it just got, so I looked into it. And I'm like, oh, he does have better stats. However, there's like, if you look at the nuance, so I just thought it was super interesting. Like, oh, I didn't see this. And then every time, whether it's positive or negative, I put it on Twitter and somebody's like, this is just confirming your bias or whatever. Like you're just being, and then if it's anti-Rodgers, it's like, you're doing this because you hate Rod. It's like, would you guys stop worrying about my motives and just look at it? And if you don't like the information, just be like, all right, I don't care. And if you do, like, oh, that's interesting. That's all.
I mean, that's why I didn't fight you. I didn't fight you. And someone like off my comments started fighting.
Oh, I know.
But I was more like, this is the craziest, most random. Yeah, I was like, this is the most random stat. Like, and the same thing Dustin Baker does. But that's also why I love him. Because there's nothing I love more than stats, right? Like, I love you're coming at like actual things that make the game so much more interesting than just going in and being like, oh, the Vikings are better than everyone because we're 12-4. Like, that's just not a realistic way of thinking. So the stat was more funny to me, but then I was like, okay, I'm actually genuinely curious about Cousins then.
So, I mean, we talk about stats and stats are super important, but I'm always kind of talking about narrative and it's interesting, at some point, Kirk Cousins is going to have to change the narrative about himself. He's going to have to do something, Aaron Rodgers.
Cousins.
What's that?
Primetime Cousins.
Right. So that's,
but primetime, he did good this year.
Well, I mean,
he didn't do good every time.
It's kind of like,
well, no, but not everyone does good.
I mean, Cousins is maddening. I mean, obviously, fantasy dad from fantasy standpoint, look at things like you can't start Cousins in a big game. Like he's a great quarterback, but I feel like as a Vikings fan, like I can't imagine feeling confident in under the big lights of Cousins actually pulling one off. And I mean, he has great moments, but he melts, man.
See, that's
sometimes he just melts on the big games.
That's so, I haven't been an athlete at that high of a level to kind of know, that type of stuff. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has done it in the past. Obviously, he's not doing it this year, but he's still. There's something about that Rodgers aura that can, if you're, on his team, you have that confidence.
It's supporting cast is sorry, but I mean you got to look at, and I'm going to defend Aaron Rodgers here, and I hate myself for it, but the support. I mean, you were talking about completion rates and all this stuff. I mean, look at the Lions and the Vikings supporting cast of offensive weapons compared to what Rodgers had to deal with. I mean, it took a while for it to click. It took a while for Watson to come on, and then I mean, AJ Dillon's playing like a beast now. Thank God, because he was killing fantasy teams all year. But Rodgers, it wasn't all him. I mean, I had to argue off so many people this year saying Aaron Rodgers was done, he's toast, all this stuff. And you could see it in the game. He wasn't playing his best at the beginning of the year, but he was never toast. He was never done. He didn't have the offensive weapons. They're coming on now at the right time, hopefully for Packer fans, not for Lions fans. But I mean, Kirk Cousins has got a dream cast around him. I mean, he should just be able to throw the ball up and have anybody catch it. I mean, it wasn't just Jefferson last week. Hawkinson was popping the ball out of his hands. Every other
he drops every other fucking ball.
It's unreal. I'm actually watching that game.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't regret losing him after this week, but for Rodgers' defense, I mean, look what he's had to deal with this year. It's just been
but again, Rodgers isn't the reason that they're winning right now. Like both offense and defense was trash in the beginning. Defense stepped up.
But he's not costing them the game either, and something to be said for that too. I mean,
do you think that
I hate to say it, but in my point of view,
Kirk is costing us games? Other than last week.
I'm not. Last week, he has cost you games before, Kirk Cousins.
What game did he cost us in this season?
It was a Monday night game earlier in the year, which he was god awful. I cannot think of who the opponent was, but throughout his career, all the way back to Washington, even with Washington, when you put Cousins in certain spots, he doesn't deliver. And I like Kirk Cousins as a player. I'm not here just to crap on Kirk Cousins. But there's a reason why. Primetime Cousins is the thing.
But Cousins is also
I'm Irish.
has
they say
the
you
most
like to have drinks.
Game-winning drives in the
league right
stereotype
now. For a reason.
Well, so
I agree.
I was to say my question then, Jared Goff.
Because we talked about this last week too.
We did.
Yeah.
We talk about kind of the narratives, and Jared Goff. The kind of narrative is, he's just kind of a placeholder. If he beats the Packers in Lambeau, what will that mean for him kind of going forward?
Last time I was on the show, not just the one I just jumped in and broke everybody's balls, but the last full time I was on the show, I would say that I think they need to look for a quarterback for the future. And I'm not saying I've changed my mind, but Goff has exceeded expectations a lot this year for me. And there are definitely needs that need to be taken care of with the Lions going into next year, but that are bigger than quarterback. And it's tough because I'm so torn on the Goff thing, because sometimes he looks great. It's the same as the Cousins thing. Sometimes he looks great, and then you look at the game against the Patriots. It's like, what happened to the offense here? You're the best offense in the league to that point, and then you do nothing, And I'm not going to blame it all on him, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm curious to see if they beat the Packers going forward, how he can perform in a playoff situation with the Lions. We've seen him with the Rams before, but I don't know. I'm totally torn on Goff right now. I'd like to. Early in the season, I'll say there's no way we can get it done with him, but now I'm kind of curious to see if we can.
I feel like the Lions are such a strong offense, but the difference between Goff and Cousins and our offense and their offense is that the Lions, if they get down, they're not a fighting team, but
everyone was at the only game. Sorry. Good.
Oh yeah. Their offense is really good at putting points on the board and scoring, but they're not really good at fighting back. Where the Vikings, it's our second and third quarters are so trash, but our fourth quarter is so crazy because for some reason we like fighting in our games. Granted, you have games like last week, you have games like the Cowboys game where everything is just turnover after turnover after turnover. But would I necessarily put it on Kirk Cousins? No. But I think that that's the difference between Goff, because I was at the Super Bowl of the Rams Patriots, and it just was the most boring fucking game. And that's the thing about him. I feel like he's not exciting, but your guys' offensive line gives him time to make plays.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Hats off to the guy Gmo commenting at the corner, man. He's correcting me and everything. I need him whenever I need him when I write my article, just to proofread.
I believe that's seventh. I believe that's seventh letter, by the way.
Keep it going, man.
Yeah. So, Pack Daddy, I wanted to ask you then. We talked about playoffs and stuff like that, but I guess I had a question. We're talking about quarterbacks. If the Packers lose, what does that say about? Does that change anything about Aaron Rodgers' legacy at all?
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, Pack Daddy. Yeah, if the Packers lose, does that change anything about Aaron Rodgers' legacy?
I don't think.
What a convenient time to cut out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You froze.
Yeah, I that's why I didn't hear the question the first time too. All right.
Again.
All right.
Yep.
No, it's not going to mess with his legacy because everybody thinks that this is just kind of a down year anyways. And so it'll be the narrative is, Dang it!
Almost got through it. You almost got through it. Your mouth,
I promise I'm not muting you on purpose.
Your mouth didn't move at all, but you almost got it.
Oh my goodness! All right. The answer is no. I don't really think so. No. It'll be just sort of, this is the tail end of his career, and he just kind of like, now it's time to hang it up. I think will be sort of the way it's viewed.
I just
Daddy, what do you think happens next year with Rodgers? I don't know if you've already answered that in another show before, but what do you think's happening next year?
I would lean toward coming back. But I don't know. I think he really likes the idea of being retired. It's just a matter of how much he really wants to play football. And I know there's a ton of money on the table too this next year. He'd be walking away from just a boatload if he did retire. But, if he wants to retire, he'll do it. I would just lean toward him wanting to do one more year. But, the other thing too is how this season ends.
Right.
If it ends horribly with the Lions this week, that might be negative. And alternatively, if they somehow win the Super Bowl, maybe that'll be his way of being like, all right, I'm out of here. But maybe somewhere in between, he might see, hey, we had a spark. Let's run this back and see how it goes. That would be sort of that. Anywhere in between, I think would lean pretty heavily toward him coming back.
And I feel like every player in history that's like that good, they play until they're like embarrassing themselves. Like,
well, that's the thing. He can't. He won't be able to stop. Favre was the same way. A lot of these, even Tom. It's like
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Joe Montana. Like everyone. Those last couple of years, it's like, okay, buddy. Like.
Right. Exactly.
Let's accept it.
So, and I don't want to go down this route, but let's go ahead and do it. So if the Packers do win, they're in the playoffs. Is there a team then, Pack Daddy, that you are worried about most? Obviously, maybe is the 49ers or? Yeah,
I would lean 49ers. Again, it's just that defense scares the living daylights out of me. They're stifling, and that's historically why they've struggled against the 49ers, even last year. They only scored 13 points. They still won because we just could not do anything up with our offense. So I don't want to see that again. If I had to choose, I would choose Dallas just because that's an automatic. So we'll just automatically go to the next round. But that would be the spectrum. Dallas on one side and 49ers just feels like an automatic loss to me.
So on the other end of the spectrum, then, Fantasy Dad, what about the Lions? If the Lions win, who do you think they would match up best with, and who might they play? I mean, would they play the Vikings right away if they were number 2? Is that kind of how?
I think it would be a hell of an offensive game against the Vikings, that's for sure. I'm with Pack Daddy as far as terrified of any 49ers matchup. That defense is just wow this year. But, that's my money for the Super Bowl right now, unfortunately. But, I think it would be the Vikings, wouldn't it? I have to look it over, but
yep, the Vikings are like second seed, right?
Yeah, that would be a great matchup. Who knows? Both defenses. Like I said, there's been improvements in the Detroit defense, but I'm not going to stand here and lie to myself and say they look great. And the Vikings defense doesn't look great either. So I feel like it would just be a matter of offenses matching up. Would be, bet the over on that one.
Say Mo seventh letter says Detroit is the king of the North at 5-1
He's
right
so
now.
Annoying.
His picture is so angry looking that I'm afraid.
Yeah, why are you so mad?
I'm not going to
afraid he's just going to come in my back door here and hit me. So I disagree with him. You're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Straight up.
And good old Rev Trev. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, and that's true.
It is.
He looks happy. Yeah.
No one thought that the Bengals.
I'll disagree with him anytime.
No one thought that the Bengals could make the Super Bowl. No one really, other than Dan Orlovsky, right? And so the Lions, if they were to win this game and get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And maybe they're getting healthy at the right time too. With Jameis Williams coming back and all of that. When you look at this Packer game, to me, it'll be interesting to see, Jamal Williams, because, it's, you wonder, a Pack Daddy, do you think, he usually in the past has greeted the Packer, his former Packer teammates. Will he do that again this weekend, do you think?
After the game?
After the game, not before the game?
Yeah, I would think so. I think that's the right mentality to have. And I mean, he's such a good person, but he's also really intense, and he's very hyper focused on what's important. So, I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't matter either way, but that would be my guess, is save it until the game's over.
Well, let's go ahead and kind of go around on this game. Pack Daddy, will let you start. What do you think the score is going to be for the Packers versus Lions?
I had it, and I think it's, let's call it 30-20 Packers.
All right, 30-20 Packers. What about you? We'll go ahead, Shelby. We'll let you go.
I think 30-28 Lions.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Fantasy Dad?
I'm going to go 2017 Lions. I don't think – somehow I just think it's going to be the defenses are going to turn it on more than we expect them to. And I think it's going to be more low score, and I could be way off here, but that's what my gut's telling me, and got to go with it.
So basically –
it's up to you.
I don't want to say it. So I'm not going to say it. I think the Lions are going to win here.
There we go.
I think Jamal Williams is going to have 2 touchdowns. I think Rodgers is I don't know. I feel like he's going to be off this game, and I just think Jameson Williams is going to be a factor as well. It'll be interesting to see how everything goes on the field, but I see the Lions just kind of really winning here. But sad to say, I think Seattle might actually win. So I think, the Lions are going to play spoiler here. But this could be, a great springboard for next year. I mean, I like that the Bears have kind of a lot of things that they can do in the offseason. But looking at that game, how the Lions dominated, I just feel like the Lions have a lot of pieces there, and they are a scary team kind of going into the future when you look at all their pieces. And then with the draft positions that they have as well this year. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a little scared about the Lions going forward.
There's hope, at least. I mean, as a Lions fan, you don't end the season feeling super hopeful, and this year you feel great going into next season. So, I mean, if they lose, at least we got that.
Thanks, Rev Trev. Yes, I have been predicting Green Bay. I've been trying to manifest that happen, whatever that means. I'm not really a fan of saying that, but yes,
I am. I'm manifesting that shit.
Yeah. Get rid of him. Get the angry guy back.
It's just I think when you look at overall teams, it's something, it's hard to pick against Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, like we've been saying, he hasn't been doing it, and this defense has been up and down. So can you really count on the Packers defense when it matters? We'll go ahead and give you, Pack Daddy, the last answer on that.
Well, the Detroit offense is pretty scary. I think they're scoring about 30 points a game, but their road offense, I think, is 19 points a game is what they're doing on the road right now. So even if the defense is about average as opposed to doing a really good job, then you're still putting them at 20 points-ish. So, again, any given Sunday, I'm just going with the best available data. But, it's everything I'm seeing is pointing to Packers. And again, that's a lot of people are playing down the Seattle thing. I think that's silly. I mean, the idea that playing spoiler is as motivational as getting into the playoffs, I think, is ridiculous. That's going to rip the players' hearts out if your playoff hopes get taken from you hours before kickoff. So a lot of Packer fans too. Oh, it's not a big deal. They'll no, I don't think so. I think you'll be motivated, but there's going to be a big loss of motivation for at least a big pile of guys, for sure.
Well, it's been a fun show. I definitely appreciate you coming on. Pack Daddy, where can everyone find you?
Pack_Daddy on Twitter, Packernet Podcast, anywhere you get podcasts.
And where can everyone find you, Fantasy Dad?
At TFF Dad on Twitter and the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast.
And Shelby, where can everyone find you?
Shelby Tweten on all social media.
And most social media, you can find me at NFL Outdated. I am definitely going to be on the couch on Sunday night. I'm probably rocking my Lions gear here, my TJ Hawkinson shirt. And whatever happens, it really is a great weekend to end with division-wise.
It's been a great year.
Yep. I totally agree.
Well, thanks again for joining us again. Once again, it's Freezin for NFC North Podcast. We will catch everyone next week, and hopefully some good news for some of the teams, and we'll see who has that good news. Thanks again, everybody.
Skull.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
I hate you.
Thanks.